Roger that, Captain. Thank you, sir. And then Connor, are you on?
Yes.
Okay, I'm on it. And then I think Rosa's going to be joining us as well.
Rosa's here in person.
Oh, okay.
So in person here, you have Rosa, Becky, Melissa, and Nadine.
Like you normally would, and then
Yeah.
you'll conduct the meeting via the phone.
Yes.
No. Okay, this is Sarah Turner. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:09. I'm going to do attendance even though we just did it. Ms. Ariano? Here. Mr. Rick?
Rochelle here.
Mr. Sandoval?
Here.
Ms. Pennsylvania? Here. Great. 1.1 is approval of the board agenda. Kim, as far as you don't have any changes or amendments since the version we received?
No, let it rip.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the board agenda?
Motion to approve board agenda. Okay, Sarah, real quick, we need people before they talk to state their name. So I think that was Jacob. So Jacob, we're gonna test Jacob. Yes, it's Jacob. I motion to approve the agenda. Thank you.
This doesn't have.
Okay, who was the second?
Amparo?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Now, Sarah, hey Sarah, with this now, you have to do a roll vote on all these, okay?
Thank you. Okay, so this is the board agenda, Ms. Ariano?
Yes.
Mr. McConnell?
Aye, Captain. I'm gonna get a little thanky. What's your comment?
Yes, do you vote to approve the board agenda?
Yes. Sorry.
No problem. Ms. Harvey Saldana?
Yes.
And Sarah Turner, so that passes 5-0. That's where you are. Can you please jump the pledge of allegiance? I will begin it. Repeat, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I am not back down and I did. Okay. 2.0, consider approval of the consent agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
This is Jacob. I motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Elsa, I second that.
Okay, so I'm now going to ask for a roll call vote on approving the consent agenda. Ms. Ariano?
Yes.
Mr. Mattel?
Aye, Captain.
Mr. Joe?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey Saldana?
Yes.
And I vote aye, so that passes 5-0. Okay, we're going on to 3.1, reports from district organizations, council committees. Mr. Ryan, do you know if we have any representatives on the phone for tonight?
No, we don't.
Okay. So we're going to go 3.2, reports from school principals, directors, department staff, chief business officer. Mr. Finn, if you could, want to know the order that you want them to go in?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just start with special ed, Ms. Derby.
Okay, I'm gonna get up so I'm a little bit closer to the speaker here so you can all hear. We've had a very busy week, but a very successful week. We're working very hard just to put everybody at ease. The SPED department is cool as a cucumber. Everything is running the way it needs to be. Our biggest concern in rolling out distance learning is making sure that's equitable for all students, not just SPED. The Office of Civil Rights are watching actions of districts very closely right now to make sure that whatever model of distance learning is rolled out, that it's accessible for all students, not just SPED, but as well for English learners and as well for the socioeconomic levels that we serve as well. I was able yesterday to have 4 virtual meetings. I split my department into 4 groups. The SPED teachers are geared up and ready to go. This is, they deal with a lot of high need students on a regular basis. So for them to come up with individual learning packets as well as have communication with families is very easy for them. It's something they do every day. Our counselors and school psychologists are reaching out to all site principals to offer any way of service they can be, whether it's interpretation, reaching out to families, putting together resources for our families that revolve around meditation, mindfulness, stress relief and anxiety relief. A lot of our families that have many members of the household are under a great deal of stress right now, being cooped up inside. Our district nurse as well is putting together a list of resources to go out with our distance learning model, which will be deployed next week on Wednesday, April 1st. So all of our departments are functioning very well. They're well informed. We're moving forward with IEPs beginning on April 1st in a virtual model. I'm following all the legal updates as well as I will be putting out a district-wide prior written notice to all special ed families to describe the process as we move through the COVID-19, as well as making sure we have plenty of copies of the procedural safeguards for all families everywhere. Paper in the office, on the website, available through case carriers. It's going to be very, very important to communicate to parents in a time like this that they know their rights as parents and how to proceed if they have a conflict or they need help or support. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine. Ms. Moore, would you do the HR report?
Yes, so we have been working with our admin team and our managers on determining who is essential so that we are sure that we are meeting the critical duties. And in line with that, we are working with both of our labor groups on agreements regarding the change in working conditions because of the coronavirus. So on tonight's agenda, we do have the CSEA MOU for your approval. Can you hear me?
They need to, I think they're gonna need to mute their.
Okay, and then we are,
If you, sorry to interrupt, if you are not speaking, if you can mute your microphone because we get feedback. So mute your microphone unless you're speaking. It'll help you understand the reports clearly.
thank you. We are also working with SRTA on their agreement. They've sent us a proposal, we've sent them a counter, and we are going to be discussing it more with them on Friday during our scheduled negotiation session. We are moving forward with negotiations, so we are meeting on Friday. It will be using this format, Google Hangouts. Lou Lozano will be joining us as part of the district team, and the SRTA team will all be working from their homes. Let's see, I have some notes. One of the things I'm working on putting together for our principals are virtual hiring procedures so that they can have a pathway to continue their staffing for the 2021 school year. And I did get word from one of the principals today that he has contacted the applicants that he is interested in interviewing and letting them know that we will be following up with them soon to schedule a virtual interview. And lastly, I emailed today the 2021 draft calendar for the school year. Since we would not be able to meet as a calendar committee, I emailed that out a week ago to both of our unions, to our negotiations team, the admin team, to get a principal's perspective on it as well. And it sounds like everyone is in agreement with it. It's drafted to be similar to this school year. The major change would be putting spring break back in line with the Easter holiday the week prior. So if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. Rose, you have one question? Go ahead, Neil.
On your schedule, are we alignment with the high school district? Are they not completed it? Where are we in that process?
I reached out to,
I'm gonna report on that in a little bit. I've just got some more information on what's going on at the state level, so I'm gonna talk about that in my superintendent's report.
for
Okay,
the,
but in terms
for the
of
school year calendar?
Calendar for next year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I reached out to all of our HR departments in the Tri-County area, and the high school district does not yet have a calendar, but this was in line with most of the elementary districts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Rosa, could you go ahead and do your report on the second interim?
Yes. Oh, second interim? Okay. Well, I do have a presentation. It is on item 4.2. So I'll be talking about the second interim. But
Go ahead and do it then. Go ahead and wait. I didn't know if you were doing it then, but you can go ahead and just do your regular director's report.
yes. For our business department, pretty much all of our staff is working from home. We still have payroll going on. We're still paying the bills. Everything is running smoothly right now at the moment. And like I said, all of my staff have laptops. So we are on ongoing communication by phone. Some of us have our phone number or cell phone linked to the district office. So if anyone has any questions, I'm always available through my cell phone. And as I said, it is linked with my work phone as well. So I'm always available to check my voicemails and check who's been calling me, even though some of the time I'm working from home. That's pretty much what I have for now, and then I'll provide more information on my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Melissa?
Good evening. It's been a busy few days for every department. Before I talk about Ed Services, I want to let you all know that Food Services stepped up and more than met the challenge they were posed with last week. And today, over 700 meals went out to families at Santa Rita Elementary, over 250 at Bolsa Knolls, and over 200 at New Republic. So there's been a steady increase every day, and Chuck's staff has just rolled with it amazingly. And our SRO has been out there every day at Santa Rita. Donna Koenig and her staff out there just checking in with those families that she shares with Santa Rita Elementary, making those connections. They've set up cones so that families stay distant from each other, and apparently it's become a new way to get out of the house for a family outing and be able to sort of shout from one cone to another to your friends. And it's been an amazingly positive community experience. And so I wanted to let you all know that. Our teachers came back virtually, many of them on Monday. Our principals have stepped up and they're leading grade level and subject area teams, putting together district-wide instructional materials for our students to access as we move through this. We're looking at, our TOSAs have put together ELD materials that will go out to meet the needs of our English learners. Our dynamic elective teachers and sort of that supplementary instruction we give in music and PE and art, they've all stepped up to the challenge to provide weekly supplemental lessons for students to access those sort of special areas of instruction as they're at home, while our regular teachers are working closely with SPED and those TOSAs on making sure we provide everything that students need, even those who need remediation materials, as well as those who need some accelerated materials to work on at home because they're above grade level. our principals stepped up to the challenge and took it on. I thanked them yesterday for jumping in with both feet, and leading this endeavor as we go forward, and I can't be prouder of them.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for the board's board reports.
Hi, Mr. Sandoval, if you could go first with board report.
Nothing to report on my.
Mr. Mattel?
Yeah, I just, thank everyone, admin, teachers, food staff. It's been an excellent, rollout of the food program. When you drive by each of the 3 sites, you have people in line, people doing social distancing, people in good mood. So I just want to thank our admin staff and everybody else who's took part in it. I'm looking forward to see what ideas the teachers have for remote learning. So I think we need to keep students engaged. Today I did my online lessons with my high school students, and the number of times I heard students say, I wish I was back at school. I wish I was back at school. You know, these students, no matter what their age, they like their routine, they miss us. So as a teacher, I understand. So thank you for the entire staff, and I look forward to remote learning and how far we progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hardy, hold on.
Hi, yeah, really don't have much to report, but the fact that I was walking my dog today in front of New Republic, and I actually, from a distance, from the other side of the sidewalk, I took a picture of families picking up the lunches, and as I continued my walk, I did see other students with their bag, their sack lunch. So that is really, it really brought up a smile to my face. And again, reiterate what Mr. Patel says about everybody and during this uncertain time to make things happen. And the way that you guys are rolling them out seems so smoothly. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Ariano?
I have nothing to report other than to say thank you to Tim and to all the district offices there that are working together.
Thank you. I wanted to report I was invited last week to participate in a conference call with the state superintendent about the situation, just because of the work that I've done in the past. But he was very positive in the call that I think most of the information that we discussed that's become public since then in terms of waiving end of the year testing and, trying to ensure that all of our employees statewide still get paid even if they're working from home. So I want to say thank you to everybody for their incredible hard work. And then also just a request of all those people that did take vacation days last week that they had been planning to, if they would just please schedule to take them, because I know how important it is to get an opportunity to recharge, and even if you're just sitting at home, to have the opportunity to do that. So please just reach out to our staff and find out who really missed because they had scheduled to take off. So I'm going to go on to superintendent's report.
Okay, I don't have much to report, but it is important. I mean, we're on a Zoom meeting this morning with all the district superintendents in Monterey County and the Monterey County superintendent. And the discussion was around extending the closure till May 1st. They were waiting to hear, because there was a press release that went out that said that those 6 Bay Area counties that had acted earlier, a couple of weeks ago, were going to make a statement, and they have since done that. So the health officers and the superintendents in Alameda County Office of Ed, Contra Costa County Office of Ed, Marin County Office of Ed, San Francisco Unified School District, the San Mateo County Office of Ed, and the Santa Clara County Office of Education have all closed schools through May 1st. Now, what does that mean for us? We're going to be meeting again tomorrow remotely to discuss it and talk it. Because this happened last time, and Melissa, I think you told me today when we were talking, Los Angeles County and San Diego County have also followed suit.
Yes.
Okay, so then this is the same pattern that happened before. So what I would suspect is within the next 24 to 48 hours, the governor will make a statement in support of that, and then our county health department would then follow suit with whatever the governor says. We're getting no guidance from the county health department. They're just waiting to see what the guidance is from the state. So anyway, I'll be in touch with you throughout the rest of this week as that progresses, and as soon as we have some kind of language to pass along to you, we would go ahead and do that. And we've been in contact. We're sending out a couple of emails and robocalls a week to our parents to just to keep them up to date with what we're doing, and so we're going to continue to do that communication out just to keep them informed. One of the questions that came up about because some people were saying, well, do we want to go out that far? But the concern from some of it's not for me, because our teachers have already they were doing this last week. They were already prepared online stuff and meetings. But there are some districts that are having problems because if they say it's going to be another week, we're going to come back on the 8th of April, they're afraid they're not going to get any buy-in from the teachers to go ahead and get the online learning up and running. So we're going to go ahead and that was, so they said if the May date is set, then it would give them a little bit more incentive to do that. Like I said, we're not having that problem. I'm not seeing that problem here at all. And Melissa, you might be able to talk to that a little bit more. But I don't think that's our problem. We're just going to follow the guidance from the state and from and obviously if the high school district goes out and the other two elementary school districts go out, it would be difficult for us to try to run a school district with that. So I'll keep you posted and I'll let you know. The last time we met on that special meeting, that board resolution is sufficient. There's a clause in there that says that the superintendent, at the direction of the board, can extend this as being necessary as situations change. So we don't have to have another special meeting like we did last time. We can just work off of that original resolution. And that's all I have, Sarah.
Okay. 3.5 is receive experience of individuals desiring to address the board on things that are not on the agenda. Tim, have we received any emails or phone calls from people that needed to speak?
Sarah, we have not. There are no emails.
Go ahead.
We received no emails.
Okay, so we're gonna, at this point, we're gonna go forward. If at some point during the meeting we receive an email, then we can just go back and have a thread. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to 4.1 to approve the 1-year contract with Moss Levy and Hart LLP to perform Santa Rita's annual auditing service for 2019-2020.
Hi, this is Rosa. So I just have this in the agenda because this is ongoing. Every year we have to approve the contract with our auditors. And it's pretty much having this set up by Ed Code, we need to approve this before April. So you've probably seen this before, and we have to do it every year. And there's really no changes at all. It's the same contract. The cost on the audit usually goes up every year by about $2,000 to $3,000. That's very usual. That's all I have. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Board members, are there any questions or comments about the contract?
I'd be very happy with Jacob. Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with the service you provide.
No questions.
Okay.
My motion to approve 4.1. Mrs. Patel, second.
roll call vote. All those in favor of approving the contract, Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
Mr. Casper, voting in favor of the contract?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah, gotcha, yes.
Thank you.
Nelson.
Yes. Mrs. Alba, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carnegie Saldana?
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Turner is a yes, so that passes 5-0. Okay, going on to 4.2, consider approval of the second interim report for the 2019-2020 school year. And I also had a question. Mr. Ryan had mentioned that there might be a PowerPoint associated with this. Can it be emailed to us?
Yeah. Rosa, be sure to email them the PowerPoint, please.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and email that to you. You should have the hard copy of the report. It's about 100 pages. And I thought this went by email, but I'll double check with that. And you should also have a copy for the budget assumptions. It's about 2-page summary of the report. It does have 2 pie charts. Did you get that by any chance? Via email? No?
I don't think I got that.
Okay, I'll make sure I send that out to you along with the PowerPoint presentation. I believe there's a link on the YouTube stream live video. I don't know if you have access to a computer.
Nicole Jensen is emailing the PowerPoint to all the board members right now.
This is Alba. I believe I got that, all the information on, the second interim report. I think it was like 32 pages that I looked at on, is that the one?
So,
Yeah, it was emailed, and everybody, that was emailed out a week ago Friday. Well, that's Friday. Yeah, we emailed that out. It was emailed on the 20th.
Yeah, no, I received it. I was going through it on my computer and it was like 32 pages. Yeah, thank you.
I don't think it's the same one, right? Because there a pie chart that she mentioned. It's a different one she's talking about.
okay, I'll make sure I'll send it out by email after the presentation. So yes, the presentation is about 10 PowerPoint slides. So I'm just gonna go through them very quick, and I'll try to point out the most important information. And
Did you say it's on the website or on the YouTube channel?
I think Nicole just sent it out by email as well.
Okay.
So you can check your email and you should have a copy now of the PowerPoint.
Okay, see it.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start, and then if you have any questions, feel free to stop me or you can ask me at the end of the presentation. So for the first slide, I just wanted to give you some updates. It relates to the coronavirus, COVID-19. I know we talked about the funding on our last board meeting, and there was a concern whether we're gonna lose funding or not. So based on the new direction by the state, we're not gonna lose funding as long as we keep or continue learning online or through independent study. So pretty much for this year, we're gonna get funded on P2 as well, but the school year, just for funding purposes, is gonna go through July through February 29. So those are the days that they're gonna count for attendance. And as you know, we get funded on the number of days that the students are actually present in the classroom. And since this is going on with the COVID-19, that's not possible anymore. So that's why they did an exception this year. So we'll be counted from July 1st again through February 29. And again, this is only for funding purposes. It's not for curriculum or anything like that. It's just for funding. Okay, there's also usually, when we have a regular year, if we don't meet the enough instructional time, there's a penalty, and usually they would take our LCFF funding, a percentage of it. The state is working with the districts as well to have that kind of like a wave for us not to get penalized. There's not a lot of information out there, but there's more information coming, and I know they're gonna be working with the district on that as well. As soon as that information comes out, I'm sure Melissa will give you more in regards to that. I'm just talking about this because, again, it relates to funding, since in the past, there's usually a penalty when we don't have the requirement for enough instructional time. I want to share this other information in regards to an emergency bill that was passed at the state. It appropriates about $100,000 billion for school sites, and this is pretty much to purchase protective equipment and purchases of supplies due to the coronavirus. I want to mention this to you in case somebody comes up to you and say, hey, there's extra funding. However, this funding is only for schools that are still open, so we would not qualify for this funding. I just want to mention that it's out there for you to know. Hopefully, in the future, the state can see that not all the schools are open at this time, and they can reallocate that money to more useful items, such maybe helping with supplies or helping on the food departments, since they're the ones that are providing a lot of support during this time. So for now, that's the proposal that they provided, and again, we're not gonna qualify for this funding, and I don't think any other schools in California would be eligible to qualify for this. I do want to mention that the district allocated approximately $90,000 for any unexpected expenses due to the coronavirus, and it's already on the second interim budget report. So if we go to the next slide, this is pretty much the budget assumptions based on the governor state budget. And compared to the first interim report for the 1920 year, there's no changes. We're still on a cost of living adjustment of 3.26. Again, I just wanna remind everyone that we are fully funded. However, we're not getting any additional funding. The only money that we're getting additional is the cost of living adjustment, so that 3.26. Our district enrollment is finalized. We submitted to the state our final enrollment numbers in January, and this came out to be 3,588. My projection at the first interim was 3,580. Compared to last year's numbers officially, and I can say this officially because now we submitted everything to the state and it's final, we have 57 less students compared to last year's numbers, on enrollment numbers. Okay, and then the attendance, because we want to keep our enrollment to attendance at 94%, based on my projection from the first interim, it went up 7.5. The costers and costers employee rate stayed the same compared to my first interim, so there was no changes there. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next slide. This is pretty much a summary of the Fund 01.
Looking at the budget assumption slide where it has CalSTRS, employer rate, am I correct that 2021 is 18.4 and then it's going down to 18.10 the next year?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I just wanted to verify.
Yes, and all these numbers, all these assumptions, we get it from the state proposed budget. So all these numbers come from the state. That's correct. Okay, so.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So going to the summary of Fund 01, as you can see on the LCFF funding, we have an increase of about $63,000. The main reason for the increase It's basically, there was a number of increase on the free and reduced lunch application, so, or LCAP funding compared to the first interim went up by about $100,000. And I do want to give big thanks to our food director who worked really hard on getting all these forms back from the parents. As you know, in the past, and usually all the districts have this problem, we have a hard time getting those forms back from the parents. So they worked really hard on getting those forms, and we got actually 200 forms more than last year. So that really increased the LCAP funding, and that's pretty much why you see an increase there. On the federal revenue, there was a decrease on Title I, so you see a small decrease of about $2,600. You're gonna see a big increase on state revenue. This is pretty much for the new funding for special ed. So there was new funding that it's a one-time funding and it's allocated for special ed one-time expenses. So that's the reason for the big increase there. And the local income, as I mentioned before, we got a grant for a new electric bus. So that's the reason for the increase there. If we look down at the expenses, I did mention on my summary, but I know you don't have a copy, so I'll make sure to give that to you because that's pretty much a summary of the whole report. We had a savings of about $1.1 million in salaries and benefits, and the main reason for that, it was because, like I mentioned on the last report that I did, we were gonna look at our vacancies to make sure they were accurate. I work in collaboration with Becky and our HR department to make sure that those were aligned based on what they had. And I just want to make sure that this is clear. This is not positions that we eliminated or nothing like that. This was positions that were created in our financial system by mistake. They were from 2014, 15, 16. They were created by mistake, so we just did a lot of cleanup with that, and this is pretty much what happened. You see a more transparent budget because of that. The capital outlay increase, again, this is for the new electric bus, and that's where you see the expense there. And in the 7,000s, the other out of go, that's pretty much an increase for special ed on the build back. That's pretty much for the special ed students that we have through Monterey County Office of Education. So if we move to the next slide, it's much simpler. It's probably the most important information you want to see. It's pretty clean. It's just revenue expenditures. What you see on the 1920, it's pretty much a zero-based budgeting. Your revenues or revenues for the district at this moment equals our expenditures. So we have a zero ending fund balance. And again, this is pretty much if we stay within the budget, if there's no emergencies, if everything stays the same. But I can tell you right now, because of the coronavirus, that's not gonna happen. Even though that's the projection as of March, things are gonna change throughout the rest of the year. So this is the best estimate that I can do here, but again, things are gonna change. We have emergencies all the time, so those numbers will be changing going forward. The 2 years out show a deficit spending, and this is pretty much because of the increases that we have every year. We have a stepping column, we have health and welfare increases, STIRS and PERS increases, increases on special ed costs. So those are pretty much the reasons why, even though we're getting, if we're getting about, or actually our revenue will be down as well because the COLA for this year is at 3.26, but next year it's gonna be a 2.7, I believe. A 2.2, and then the third year out, a 2.7. So our revenue will be less, our expenditures will be more, and that's pretty much the main reason of the deficit spending. As you can see right now, we cannot add any expenditures without making cuts somewhere else. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next slide. This is pretty much usually for the county office and the state, the most important page of the report is the district able to meet the 3% minimum reserve? Yes, we are. So I just put a screenshot of our multi-year projection. So even though we're projecting a deficit spending, we have enough reserves to cover the 3% requirement by the state. So for the child development, there's not a lot of changes there. The only change is that they got a new grant from NCOE, like I mentioned to you before. It was for 2,290, and there was also an increase their budget because they have some money that they didn't spend. They got a grant from NCOE on last year, so the money rolled over to this year. So I allocated those expenses in this year, so it's available for them to spend. And at the end, this fund, if they spend all of their budget, there'll be a zero out on the ending fund balance, if you can see there in the last line. And when I was putting together, I just want to share this, when I was putting together my budget for the child development and for Cafeteria Fund, I always have these meetings with our directors so we can all be on the same page and we can have the best estimates as possible. So when building these budgets, I work together with those directors to make sure they understand the budget, to make sure I had everything that they needed as well. So if we move to the Cafeteria Fund, as I mentioned before, the Cafeteria Fund received a grant for $66,000. And you also see that in decrease on federal revenue. However, we have to decrease the revenue because this year we have less students, so we're gonna be getting less funding from federal and state. And we also increase expenses as well because since we got that grant, we need to spend it. So you see an increase on especially on capital outlay and other services and books and supplies. And this is pretty much to spend the grant that we received this year. On Fund 14, 25, 35, and 40, there was not much changes, no activity for Fund 35, no activity on Fund 40. On Fund 25, we had an increase for $20,000 in revenue for developer fees, and also an increase on expenses for the board approval purchase of the portables not to exceed $400,000. The next forms in the report, Form A, it's pretty much a summary of our district. ADA, Form Cash, that's pretty much represents the cash flow by month for the district. Form SIAI, it's the interfund activities. So you're gonna see from Fund 1, there's a transfer to child development to cover those fees for the parent fees. And there's also a transfer from Fund 1 to the Cafeteria Fund to cover the deficit spending. The criterion standards is a 26-page document, and that's pretty much an analysis of the budget. If there's any numbers that are off, you're gonna see that the state pretty much requires an explanation. So if you go through that form and you see my comments there, you're gonna be able to understand why those numbers change from my first interim projection. And the Form MYP is the multi-year projection. That's probably the most important document that you want to see. That is the current year budget and the 2-year out budget projections. And then the last form is a TRC, and that's where you can see pretty much making sure that everything is balanced and zero out. And if there's any issues, it would come up in that form. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Okay, next we go back at one number, if questions or comments, now would be the time.
Okay, this is, Patel. I just want to say, thank you. I'm looking at the, budget numbers here on my screen, and it looks like even with their, early, closure of school, that possibly even reopening, we're looking good. I was very concerned about the nutrition, account. I hope they stay steady. Whatever we can do to make sure that that area of the budget is protected. But I'm very pleased that our interim is not out of whack. It's in line with what was expected. So thank you very much.
In regards to the cafeteria fund, I do want to mention that it was not mentioned before, but Chuck has been working with the food bank, and he was able to get 200 bags of food and allocated that on the 3 school sites. And he's been doing a great job, but I can tell you right now, he needed more support on staff for hourly, and I had already increased his budget by about $13,000 as of today to cover that support that is helping him out right now. And again, the great thing is that we were able to put aside some money for unexpected expenses due to the coronavirus. So we are already using those $90,000, and like I said, that was part of his budget increase. But yes, we put that contribution back from the unrestricted fund to cover any deficit spending for his fund.
Thank you.
But also, this is Elva. Thank you very much. Very good PowerPoint. Thank you.
Sarah, if there are other questions before we vote?
Sarah, there are no questions from the public.
No questions for me.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion, please, to approve the second report?
I am Paro Jauregui, I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
This is Jacob, I second.
Okay, roll call vote, Patel?
Aye, aye, Captain.
Mrs. Shetty?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Otto?
Yes.
Ms.
Sorry.
Yes.
And I vote that, so it passes 5-0. And who's over making me laugh over there? You're pretty funny. Thank you. Moving on to 5.1, approval or denial of shared contract request by 2 teachers, employee number 159702 and employee 141786 for the 2020-2021 school year.
Hi, this is Becky. I did reach out to the teachers and shared the status of the discussion at the last meeting. They have not submitted a new proposal. The last communication that I had led me to believe that they were not going to do that. So the proposal stands as originally provided to you.
Okay, this is Sarah. I had talked to Becky after we talked last time and told her that I would only feel comfortable voting for a split contract if they were interested in splitting morning and afternoon, because I wanted the children to have the consistency of seeing the same person every day. So my understanding is that's not what they're proposing at this time. So I still feel comfortable voting in favor of the contract. That's just my opinion right now.
This is Elva. Likewise, I feel the same way.
Are you entertaining motions, Madam President?
If you would like to make a motion either to approve or to deny the contract, you're welcome to do that.
Motion not to approve, Patel?
Second, Alba.
Okay, this is Sarah, I'm gonna ask for both appointments, a motion to deny the shared contract by the two teachers. Mrs. L,
Aye, aye, Captain.
Mrs. Mumble,
Is it me?
no, Jacob,
Oh, Jacob? Sorry, I had it on mute. Yeah, well, yes, for the question.
thank you. Miss Ariano,
Yeah, to deny.
Miss, how do you spell Leah?
Yes.
Okay, and Turner, I'm voting yes in the denial of the contract. So at this point, we are denying the approval of the shared contract request by the two teachers. Moving on to 5.2, consider approval of memorandum of understanding between Santa Rita and CSEA Chapter 503 regarding coronavirus response.
This is Becky. As I mentioned in my report, we've worked with both units. CSEA provided their MOU to us last week, so we were able to discuss it with them and come to an agreement on March 17th. So that is what you have in your packet for approval.
Any questions, comments?
Madam President, just a comment. I just want to thank our CSEA staff and our administration for working on this agreement. Our CSEA staff have been on the front line dealing with parents and students and providing meals, cleaning our facilities, being the secretarial staff. It has been incredible what they have done given the amount of negativity surrounding employment. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you.
This is Sarah. I completely agree. I've just been so impressed by food services, custodial staff, secretaries, the backbone of the district. They've been amazing during this time.
Agreed.
Make them approve.
I second.
Alba.
I Amparo, second that.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for roll call vote, but Mrs. House,
Aye, aye, Captain.
Mrs. Wolf,
Yes, I agree.
Adriano,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
and Turner, I vote yes, so motion passes 5-0. Okay, we're going on to things. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 8th. I know I'm not in regular times, but if there's anything that the board members would like to have agendized, not necessarily on the April 8th meeting, but just in general, please let me know.
Nothing new.
I would love to see information regarding our distance learning program, what the teachers have come up with. Maybe it's not anything specific, but just a summary, if you will. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good.
This is Ms. Turner, Mr. Lane. At some point, if we could just have an update on what's going on with allowing out-of-district transfers. I know we're not in regular times, but just an update on what's happening or not.
Okay, yeah, we'll be in touch. I'll be sending you guys out daily emails, just to keep you posted on what's going on.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else on the board before we officially adjourn?
I just want to know, and how are you gonna do?
How are you doing there, Scotty? You know what, I turned the corner, I actually could hold down some solid food today, so I think it's better. It's just that with my, with the issues I had with my lungs back in February, the doctor they wouldn't even let me come in. They said, we can't even see you. So they told me to shelter in place for at least 14 days. So, but, if I'm feeling better, I probably get in next week, so. Well, that's if the cabinet will let me. They might not let me. They're kind of.
I was gonna say, I might need a doctor's note to clear you, Tim.
Yeah, they're a little protective, so yeah. So.
Yeah, Becky's gonna wanna see a doctor's note.
Use the board. No, I'm doing much better. Thank you guys. It's been, I gotta tell you, with a team like we got, it's been an amazing journey, and just, I called Melissa a couple times a day just to check in. We're texting each other. Becky is keeping me up to date on the negotiations. Nadine posted me this morning on what was going on with, some of the negotiation stuff that she got in on, and also let me know how she's just dealing with SPED, which is really, really, that's a sticky area, and I think that's going to be, that'll be an area that's going to see a lot of waves as we go through this thing. So, and Rosa's doing an amazing job. Just she got through that STIRS thing, and she's got the business office running. So I'm really fortunate, and not to mention Chuck and Victor. Oh my gosh, I don't know what we'd be in the tall grass if it wasn't in those two guys. So.
Yes.
Thank you, Tim, for all you do, and I'm currently reading the Rick Warren book, so I've got you in my prayers.
Purpose-driven life. It's not about me, so I love it. Thank you, Alma.
You're very welcome. Take care and be safe.
I will.
Okay, we're gonna officially adjourn at 6:06. Everybody stay safe, and everybody keep in.
Somebody make a motion?
Okay,
Thank you.
You gotta make a motion.
Somebody make a motion? Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Jacob,
We got a second,
and that's Amparo. Got it.
and all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Thank
We'll
you.
take it. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thank you.
Good night. Take care.
Okay.
Good night. Everybody be safe.